This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome to Terraform for Threat Emulation for the Uninitiated. I'm Amy here on the right over at DEF CON 29. So this last one, this was my first DEF CON. I'm working, or rather hanging out with a machine that I used to defend because I was a network admin at Miami-Dade County elections. Now, I at this point, I'm more focused on product security, interning at a few different places. And on Sundays, I have another good habit of co-hosting the OWASP DevSlop YouTube show, which is all about sloppy devs, DevSecOps disasters. And of course, I love typing Terraform destroy, which is how Jordan and I met, both through DEF CON and through that shared love. Um, we are both in Pacific Hackers. I'm one of their proteges because they actually helped me get to DEF CON and actually make this awesome ascent into product security, something I never thought I'd ever do. So with that,
Awesome. Hi, my name is Jordan. I'm pretty new here. This is my first time presenting at Hack Miami. So first off, thanks for having us. We're pretty stoked to be here. I am a member of I work at the Bay Area Cyber League out in San Francisco. Shout out to Irvin. We basically build competitions, infrastructure games for middle and high school community college students. So that has been, quite an adventure so far. But other than that, I'm also a full-time student. So I am working towards obtaining my bachelor's in computer science. So I'm fairly new to security. Actually, the beginning of the summer was when I really got my first job in security. And so my background, like I said, primarily more in the computer science realm. So I'm really trying to enjoy this space at the intersection between coding and security. And so I was really stoked to meet Amy and kind of find that she was interested in HashiCorp products and Terraform. And I can remember we first met at DEF CON and like immediately bonded over this, like, oh, Terraform, oh my gosh, you're also into this. So was very excited that she was interested in kind of continuing to work on a project with Terraform. So we both have learned quite a bit, still are learning quite a bit. And so we are pretty excited to have you guys here and tell you a little bit about Terraform, a little bit about AWS. And hopefully, this is something that we can kind of continue to learn about and grow into. Anything else about me? Oh, yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
yeah. So
Cool.
why are we doing this? Well, because I don't know if you're familiar with the German phrase Schneefallgestern, and I'm probably totally mispronouncing it, but that means yesterday's snow, or girl, that's yesterday's tea, right? This is a news piece on crypto mining botnets stealing Docker and AWS credentials. And I know I just performed the cardinal sin of reading off the slide, but they're not looking for your cash anymore as the sole target or crown jewels anymore, right? Botnets are
Going for
going
the
to do what botnets
credentials.
are going to do, right? Yeah, they're looking for your credentials to continue replicating. And this is just like one, I think, uh, one thing that's happened in the last couple of months. And even so, like, we cannot keep up with these kinds of attacks anyway. So, of course, Jordan and I said, well, how hard could it possibly be to replicate something like this at home, right? These are famous last words because looking at AWS security reference architecture, there's many products that you can use. And this diagram is even kind of like a high level overview of what those can do within organizational units, which AWS uses to segment um, different business units. So not just for billing purposes, but also with like security control policies to give like maybe a max amount of privileges within that org, right? But who has time to learn all of these? Not us for like a 1 month ahead of us POC. So of course, this is exactly what we ended up doing. Just kidding. Our architecture was very simple, got very pared down very fast. This is actually Splunk's attack range, which is very complex, I think, for a beginner. So we said, oh, okay. We got to step back. We got to figure out how to make this easy for people who have never done this before, right? So we did what any self-respecting dev would do, and we started scraping GitHub for a bunch of random templates that were full of saucy and poor configurations. So that leaves us to talk about promiscuous principles. And what do we mean by this? S3, of course, you see the logo here, S3 principles. So we are going to be demoing a very small Terraform project, which gives you an overview of infrastructure as code, right? Which is what you're seeing scroll on the right-hand side. In Terraform, which is a declarative language that allows you to provision resources and also, configurations. But infrastructure as code obviously also extends beyond this. Once you've deployed those resources, what do you do with it? Well, that's where configuration management steps in with tools like Ansible, for example, to make sure that the policies that you want to apply to your resources stick, right? We'll be working with AWS as mentioned previously, but with less complexity than the security reference architecture diagram that we showed before. Although I do recommend you check that out, as well as the paper that they have on the well-architected framework if you want to learn a little bit more in depth about those subjects. Yes, we're using S3, which is just a simple storage service. It could be S cubed, however you want to say it. Yeah, we'll just click on this Terraform init, Terraform apply again, or Terraform plan and apply again, so you can get a gander of some of the stuff that we're going to be abstracting away because we're not going to show you all of this. But yeah, you can see how it's provisioning things like keys, security groups. I mean, it's awesome. Like, basically, I love this tool because when I was working as a telecommunications analyst, I had to provision, I had to provision and configure how many, like hundreds of Cisco routing equipment configurations, and it was like a manual process, one by one. And I never want to do that again. So here we are. All right. So in order for us to create a scenario that was worth putting down, we thought to work backwards in the way that I think threat hunters do, right? And figure out what would be most interesting to either like an internal actor or somebody like a malicious actor from from outside. And I'm sorry, we don't use like all these hackery terms. We're still going to school. But yeah, I love this diagram from Sans Cloud Security because they already talk about like some of the things that you want to be aware of, which pretty much comprise policy as code, right? And what you can write into a Terraform template if you want to, or a CloudFormation template, which is actually what I'm most familiar with. We're talking about roles and like policies, which is what we'll be working with our S3 buckets. What roles have the most privileges and so on, and how important it is to have an audit trail with CloudTrail, for example, and how you can map all of these potential scenarios to MITRE attack tactics, even though we're working with APIs rather than like perfect, what do you call this, packets on a wire that we have complete control over in our on-prem environments. So with that, oh, and of course, we're not doing these two scenarios because we're not going to be biting off of SANS, and also because the complexity of it is a little bit high even for us. We literally like scrapped this together, our like ugly code baby, within one evening. um, so yeah, we will not be talking. Well, we will be talking about stolen keys and YAML files and all that, but nothing like any fun exploit scripts. Definitely a deploy. So here we go. How do we start? And what are the minimum requirements? So if you wanted to follow along for some reason at some point, which we will have something a bit more formalized with like a run book so that you can basically replicate what we're doing here. You'll need Terraform. We installed, well, I used a Linux VM to do all of this, and you're on Mac, but yeah, Terraform, AWS CLI, some little bit of familiarity with it. And if not, that's fine. The commands we're using are going to be super simple. Git, because you want to clone some repos, some ugly repos. Checkoff, which you'll see later is basically a cloud auditing, well, really like a tool for, yeah, auditing infrastructure as code. And Bucket Finder, which is going to be our one of our exploit tools, and TerraGoat, which is the nastiest of the nastiest Terraform templates that you can deploy. And I'm not telling you should try this at home, but you could. With that, just wanted to point out that Chekhov is indeed a nod to you Trekkies. So I am a fellow Live Long and Prosper fan. All right, so another piece that we will not be showing you for well, actually, well, not all of, but we can definitely talk about is some common misconfigurations you'll see in code. And you just look to the right. This bucket is public, which is how you know like half the things in the news you see about compromise happen. It's not encrypted, and it does not have access logs, and doesn't have versioning. So let's think about that just for a second, right? I don't know if anyone in the audience wants to talk about what they could do with this bucket, but if you want to unmute, I'd be happy to hear all of your ideas. Also, pardon the kids in the back. If not, I'll go through a short scenario, right? So let's say you have an internal actor, somebody who's like just angry, and they're like, oh man, you know what? I really want to take that S3 static site that you have up there and replace it with me and cat all day, every day, because that's what I would do. Gave away my signature. And then you have no backup of the site, and maybe it was something fairly important. Well, too bad, so sad, you didn't use any versioning. But this is totally preventable. The great thing about infrastructure as code is that all of these things, since you have to declare them on paper so that they are replicable every single time, you can definitely avoid them. And we'll be looking later at some, what do you call this? Some more secure coding practices to prevent this all from happening. So with that, oh, and if I don't know if anybody wants me to go over more granularly what this template is saying. Oops, gave it away. We can do that, or we can move on into demo time. All right. So I'll let Jordan take over here.
Awesome. So at this point, can I still don't have ability to share screen. Do I need to be?
I had to stop
There
sharing,
we
and now let's see if we can make you the presenter. There you go.
Okay, cool. This should be what I want. Okay, can folks see screen? Looking good? Can I get a confirmation? Oh,
You're good.
anyone?
I see
Okay,
it.
cool.
Sorry. Yes,
Okay,
Dory says
awesome.
yes.
Can you see me? Okay, so I'm going to kind of be running the demo portion of this. So a couple things, I will go over what we're gonna get into. So first thing, we mentioned TerraGoat, which is basically, it's a vulnerable by design project, basically intended for people to better understand and identify where vulnerabilities are in infrastructure as code. So like Aimee said, we'll kind of follow up with this with more formal resources. The folks who put this together have some great documentation, and it is kind of a great learning resource. So we'll start with TerraGoat. We're going to run a checkoff scan, which is, like we mentioned earlier, checkoff is a pretty much a static analysis tool for searching for vulnerabilities within infrastructure as code. And then, so we'll just kind of touch on that. We'll show some terrible, extremely vulnerable templates just to see, you know, the kind of landscape that we're working with. And then from there, we will move into our first other scanning tool kind of pertaining to S3 buckets, so Bucket Finder. And then from there, we'll move into creating and whipping up our own S3 buckets with Terraform, then kind of move from there into another tool used, it's called PACU. And so that is, let me pull up other.
Oh, and let me just interject to say that this is like our part one, because we really wanted to make this a little bit longer, but we didn't know till last minute that we had 2 hours to do this. So yeah, we're going to focus on S3 buckets, but definitely we do plan to, as we said before, create a GitHub so that you all can follow along and work on this with us. And I'll let you take that away. And you let me know when I can start interjecting with some horror stories.
Okay,
Um,
awesome. Right
infrastructure as
on.
code horror stories. Okay, cool. Or S3
Okay,
horror stories,
so
rather.
full disclosure, this is my first demo of this sort. So if everyone could pray to the demo gods that things go smoothly. Also, if folks want, I can generate a live share, VS Code live share link. I'm not sure if that is something that people are interested in, or we can kind of start now and maybe part two, I can generate that for next time. So we'll go ahead and get started. So let's start with TerraGoat. So I Git cloned this repo, and as you can see, let's actually go back out. So, so I've got TerraGoat in that bottom right-hand corner. So we're gonna pop in there. And what we're gonna do is continue in, we've got a Terraform directory, and it's kind of neat because the tool actually allows folks to spin up infrastructure with multiple cloud providers. So we, like we said, are working with AWS. So I'm going to go ahead and move into that section. At this point, you know, we've got a slew of files basically that are representing all kinds of resources that you can provision in AWS. So we're not going to get too much into the details of this. We're kind of just going to mostly show how to run a Chekhov scan and kind of see the results of that, because it's pretty gnarly. So I'm gonna press enter. Aimee, this is your time while this is running to interject with some horror stories.
Okay, cool. Or I could also note something that I'm going to post in the chat. So this is a YouTube. Oops, sorry, sent it to the wrong set of people. It's a YouTube video, kind of doing a deeper dive into some of the tooling that we're working on, in case anybody wants to do that. But yeah, Checkoff, as you can see, gets like a buck ton of results. So how can we even begin to start looking at this SAS tool and like paring down its output. So Kennard here, who's featured in this OWASP DevSlop video, actually created a bunch of tooling that is excellent, and that I encourage you to look at. And one of the things that he did was take some of these results, these checkoff results, and pair them by, in his view, what like either the severity was or like more or less the groupings for the kinds of results that they were. So let's say like, okay, maybe it really doesn't matter that you don't have, I don't know, encryption in a bucket that's public, and that you don't mind like somebody like taking that from you, right? But probably we do care about hard-coded access keys. Yeah,
Yeah,
right. So all of those
maybe.
things have to be prioritized. So yeah, so I do encourage you to look at that tooling. But go ahead, just leave you to it now that you have all those results up. It's a fairly fast tool, as you can see, kind of cool.
Yeah, so we'll just touch on a few of these. So like, as you said, it says pretty explicitly right here. I mean, you can see the explicit access and secret keys that are hard-coded into the AWS provider resource. We can see here, we've got an AWS bucket. Basically, this resource key term just represents an actual resource. We've got the type of resource and then name. And then we move into some of the parameter configurations. Like I said, we won't get too into the nitty gritty of Terraform code as of right now, but just wanted to show, an overview of some of the types of vulnerabilities that are even possible. Because at this point, when I was new to sort of infrastructure as code and even AWS, this was the first place that I went, and it was just like mind blowing to see, how extensive these scans can continue. So we've got ensuring that S3 bucket has cross-region replication enabled. Let's see, encrypted with KMS by default, and ensuring that data stored has versioning enabled, which we'll kind of talk about, or I think we mentioned earlier as one of the common misconfigurations. This is a big one, making sure that the data is securely encrypted at rest. I believe that was one of the issues with the Capital One breach in 2019, is the data was not correctly encrypted in its storage phase. Access logging enabling, another cross region replication enabled. So even just starting there, that's only with the S3 bucket. So we can kind of continue down. Let's see, what else do we have? Well, as you can see, the lists are pretty much endless with the types of vulnerabilities that are able to occur. All right. So good stuff there. They even get into high entropy strings, which for cryptography people, that can be quite an issue as well. Access keys. So that is kind of quick overview of Terraboat. So.
Oh, we do have a question in the chat, and I just wanted to address
Oh,
it.
awesome.
Yeah, can you add this into a CICD pipeline as a build and test stage?
Yes.
Absolutely. Have we done this?
Yes.
Absolutely not, and not for this demo. But
That's actually, I think the main purpose of Chekhov is it is meant to be implemented within the pipeline checking stages. So yes, and again, we'll follow up with this and link proper resources to make sure that folks can get to these on their own.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any more questions? Yeah, sorry. If anyone has any questions, yeah, continue to ask. I'm happy to, yeah, there we go. Right? It's pretty smooth. I was kind of excited to find this one. I'm not even joking. The other night, I told Aimee, I was like, we had a meeting and I was heading off to bed and I couldn't really sleep and I was not counting sheep. I was literally running Chekhov scans in my head. I'm not making that up.
Yeah. Okay, well, now that everybody knows we're like for real nerds. okay. So stop.
Right? See, you can relate. I love it. All
Okay,
right.
moving on in the demo.
Moving on. So we now are going to explore Bucket Finder, which is a product by DigiNinja that Aimee introduced me to. So basically, given a word list, I can check whether an S3 bucket exists, because all S3 buckets have to have unique names. And so basically, we can just like cross-check, see if they exist, and whether or not they are public or private. And for the public buckets, we can then get a directory listing. And from there, we can see which files are public or private. So this is basically just a Ruby script. It's very easy to download. I don't think there's a lot of overhead. Let me bear with me while I make sure I'm in the right place. So I want to go CD downloads and then Bucket Finder.
So something that I wanted to point out, I know that you're working on this demo, but just that the reason that we decided to work with Checkov is that you have all of these very clear sort of demarcations for this is what failed, this is where it failed. And if you know absolutely nothing about secure coding in infrastructure as code, you can get an idea of what that's like by, again, doing kind of like what threat hunters do, working backwards, right, from the problem. So maybe you can look up this list and then pair it up with, independent study just to see if there's, maybe like a remediation recommendation, for example, or if you need further context on what each of these like less secure coding practices are, you can always look them up. And did I miss the demo, or like was I talking too much? No,
no, you're good.
Oh, okay. Because
yeah,
we definitely have some commentary
yeah.
when it does come on, because you would be surprised at the kinds of bucket names that you see that match up with that ROCU list. Like it doesn't feel real. So in the interim, I wanted to also give a shout out to Paul. I'm going to mispronounce this person's name, but Paul Japa? He's a security researcher that has found some pretty scary things on publicly exposed resources, and in particular, S3 buckets. And I highly encourage you to look into this video where he talks about some non-obvious methods of attacking and penetrating AWS cloud. Yes, we're going there. We're getting there. We're going to get. Yes, that's the link. Sorry, I'm posting it in the chat, Adam, so y'all can see it. Just kind of, we'll also have this collection of links, obviously, but I just wanted to give you that in advance if you wanted to peruse it any further. But, I think we're all like pretty familiar with like compromise keys and such, but some of the more interesting methods that he delineated are rather simple. So let me see if I can recall one of them, and if not, are we ready for demo or no?
For some reason, I might just need to pull it up on a separate terminal outside of VS Code. So let me.
Okay, no problem.
I can just do a little switch. See.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay, so something that you should be aware of, like if you can get somebody's like S3 bucket link, right? You'll see their region, right? So you can use that. There's a couple of things that you can do with that. One, you can enumerate further on that bucket by looking in through DNS records. You can look at that region and possibly, narrow down your search, because if you're going to be enumerating, yes, you can enumerate like the way that we're doing right now with like a list, but that can also take fairly long. If you already know more or less what you're looking for, say like if you wanted to go into, if you suspect that there's a bucket that this person has that has like that's attached to an account that has higher privileges, or sorry, the targets, not this person, excuse me, the target account has higher privileges, then you can, at least like narrow down your search to that one particular region. So that's one thing to be aware of. Let me see some
Okay.
other notes. Oh, okay. Sorry. Are we?
No, you're good. One question actually. So can you guys see
Yes.
my whole screen so you can see terminal on top as well?
I don't see anything. I thought for some reason you had stopped sharing. Sorry.
Okay. Let's try that.
I see a terminal and I see Bucket Finder, the script, and then Text, right? We
Okay,
good?
my bad. Yeah, for some reason I thought I was only sharing VS Code, but I think it's the whole screen. So.
Oh.
Oh, okay, that makes it easier. Okay, so sorry, you can continue or I can. Oh, there we go.
No, go ahead. Just let it roll. I can continue this tale a little
All
later
right. Okay, here we go. So
because
3,
everybody wants to
2,
see. Go
1.
ahead.
Some exciting scrolls.
All
Okay, so
right.
you start to see that we have access denied, private buckets. Ooh, I love you, all these things. Jessica, Cordy, all the classic, very creative bucket names and file names. Let's
But
see.
we definitely, I love Bubbles there. It's definitely public. You all want to visit Bubbles right now? It's a
Tinkerbell.
pretty, yeah. Jeez. Um. So yeah. We can always start here. um. But for the sake of making a less complex demo, um, we are going to assume that for the next portion of our tooling demo that we have keys. We have somehow gotten access to our access keys and can
Somebody
clone
put
your
them up
account.
in GitHub, like somebody did the cardinal sin, stuck their access keys on GitHub.
Oh yeah. Oh, and if that happens, by the way, this is what I was going to tell you. Completely like lost track of my thoughts, but you have about 5 minutes before GitHub publishes to your feed publicly that you've done such a thing. So if you for some reason forgot that you put in or you hard coded your credentials into a template that you pushed up to GitHub, that's what you got. 5 minutos, okay, to correct that. And this person that I was telling you about, Powell, whatever, Powell, he investigated like why that was happening. So that this is how I know this 5 minute, I guess, time frame. Because he was like, why is it that like, there's no hits on my account beforehand, and that's basically it. All right. So I think that's enough from a comp of whatever. Susanna Rivieri,
I know,
I'm
poor
gonna
Susanna.
find you.
We're all up in our business, all up in their business.
Yeah.
Oh, a little fiesta. All
Okay.
right. So just an example, or just to show, the wide landscape of public buckets that are available for us to explore. All right. Moving on. Let's go ahead. We continue to get situated. Bear with me. I appreciate everyone's patience. Let's see where we are. I
Okay.
want to move into not that. Okay, here we go. So the next thing we will do is actually get into this Terraform code here. Let me move down terminal. So what we have here is a very simple project that uses Terraform and AWS to provision S3 buckets. So in this file structure, we have main.tf, which is sort of where everything comes together in one. We've got an output file, which we will see basically you can change these you can configure this to output basically any value of the resources. So if you're spinning up an EC2 instance, you can have that spit out, the IP address that is created with that. So right here, we'll have just ID of the S3 bucket. And then we move down into some state files, which once we actually run the buckets, information will be gathered here. And then we also have a variables file, which basically, if we go back to main, we can see, for example, that we've got, let's just scroll down a little bit. So we've got this var.key bucket, which just basically means this is the create bucket variable, allow public variable, which we can then kind of see over here, the allow public variable. We give a description, and right now this just means that the default configurations are set to false. So let me go ahead.
Can we see some like, can anyone spy any like poor configurations here? I don't know. And if not, that's okay. We'll show you the code ugly, baby, and what belies it, and point that out.
Okay. So we are in the AWS S3 bucket directory. So from there, we have a few Terraform commands. So the first one is the first one that we'll run is Terraform init. And as you can see, this initializes the backend. Basically, this initializes the working directory that the Terraform files exist in. And so if you continue to work with Terraform, it's normal to run that command quite frequently. So next step is we will move into Terraform Plan. And from there, we have a couple things that it will ask us to prompt us. So I'm going to enter some information. Let me see. Okay, so I'm gonna enter in, I've got my AWS account ID. Unfortunately, this is sort of just a dummy account, so there's not really anything fun that we can do with this. I just wanted to have something that we could get up for the demo, but there's no juicy credit information, no fun websites, nothing of that nature. So we'll just kind of continue on. So this is a fully qualified domain name, which there is a specific format, where you have a bucket name. We're going to be creating an S3 bucket. Region, right now I'm in California, so I'm going to stick with that US West 2, Amazon AWS.com. So we will continue that, and then they have us enter in our region, so I'll stick with West 2. And a lot of these times, these things need to be the same as your, like, however you configure your AWS account. So right now I'm in US West 2. You can definitely run into some issues with different regions if you don't have that configured correctly. So just a heads up, we definitely had to deal with that a little bit. So Terraform Plan, here I'll scroll up here, basically will show what the output will be before provisioning anything. So as you can see, we'll perform the following actions. So we're going to create this AWS S3 bucket log, with these different parameters. We get into some detail that is not necessarily necessary to go over, so I will not spend too much time on that, but at least give you a little view of what's going to be created. We can see what the bucket name is going to be. We'll continue down, and it's neat because you can see, so for example, like website domain or website endpoint, you can, as I mentioned earlier in the output files, that can be something that you can spit out at the end. So we'll kind of continue down, all this good stuff. Oh, interesting policies. Interesting, lots of allows. This wild card always makes me a little nervous, so we'll see what that ends up being like. Okay.
Hold up. Can we break that down before we
Yeah.
apply it? Just really
Yeah.
quickly? Okay. Let's scroll up. All right. So this is a bucket policy if you haven't seen this before. It's in JSON. And basically our action, right? We're allowing anything on S3 to happen, right? The effect is allow. That's what that star is for any resource, right? Your principal is the user, i.e. you. Of course, it's much safer to use a role. And then the resources, right? We're scoping out like the S3 bucket and it's not quite a domain, but like the namespace, if you will. So, and then that version is like standard. It's been that pretty much for forever. But yeah, just wanted to point out that you can do more granular things than that, and we will see that later.
All right. Good deal, good deal. Okay, so next step, Terraform apply. So we're basically going to, so we can configure our Terraform files to basically allow this information to already be entered so we don't have to manually enter it. But for the time being, we're just going to stick the same arguments in. So account ID, my username, domain, give it 1 second, or namespace, bucket head. And here we go. Fingers crossed. Okay, and then they always ask you again, you have to do a yes confirmation to before the actions will be approved. So here we go, 3, 2, 1, very exciting, creating. Sometimes this can take about 30 seconds or so we shall see.
Yeah, and it might scream and say some things about formatting, maybe, I don't know. I don't remember if there were any errors in this one, but that's okay.
I do think with this one, there was a, Terraform is particular about how you format your JSON policies. So not happy with white spaces or, but that again is another, there are ways where you don't have to actually hard code JSON. You can just link it in as an argument. So, or within policies, so you're not actually having to hard code any of that.
Yeah, there are modules that you can pretty much straight up rip off of the Terraform site that
Their
can help.
registry.
Yeah,
Sort of like a marketplace, actually, kind of.
Yeah.
Think of it like that. Okay, so as we can see, we have this malform policy, but that's okay because it still actually made the bucket, because what we can do is, this is where we hit up that AWS command line. So what was it, S3LS? And oh, voila, look at those two bucket, or the bucket and bucket logs. So we can see that the buckets have successfully been provisioned, all from VS Code. I didn't have to click through any GUI to do that. No console.
Yay.
So that's kind of the idea here, is that you don't have to spend time manually clicking through a user interface, and instead you can kind of have all of your resources centralized within a project folder, and just kind of have codified ability to manage, maintain, spin up, and as we will see, we can destroy as well, which is the fun part. So from here, any questions so far? That was kind of a, I know, quick run through of lots of code, lots of new things, lots of colors.
I don't see any in the chat right now, but I guess like what really people want to see are the vulns. Everybody wants to see like how we can use these credentials, right, to destroy even more things.
Right on.
Are we gonna go into PACU next? Is that the?
Yes, we can go ahead
All
and destroy
right.
and then we'll get into PACU. Yeah. No worries,
Yeah.
no worries. Cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and just do the full Terraform lifecycle and continue on. So again, they will ask for same values, fully qualified domain name, and US West 2. So we'll just wait a few more seconds. Have to confirm. They give you another breakdown of everything that will be destroyed. So as before, if you saw the plus signs, that represents what's being created. The minus signs represent everything that's being destroyed. So go ahead and keep moving through. Boom, destroy complete. That is very satisfying. Are you satisfied, Amy? I know that you love destroying.
Super. But can we do the after with the AWS CLI?
Yes, of course, of
Yes,
course.
yes. Let's make sure it actually happened. Snapshots or it didn't.
There we go. All you see are my awesome bucket heads, and no more of the JLC 1234 bucket head or the bucket head logs. So there we go.
Yeah.
Voila. Just a few lines of code. I ain't mad about it. All right. Let's go on ahead and get out of that. I'm gonna just I guess I can open up a new terminal and not have VS Code be so crazy. All right. So next thing that we are going to be moving into is PACU. Let me get to where I need to be, which is basically a command line interface that provides database and modules for AWS pen testing. So how I have been accessing PACU is through a Docker container. I found that to be kind of the least, it was just kind of, I think, the most seamless way to get into this. So I go ahead and run my Docker container. So first thing, you have to sort of create a new session. PACU will go ahead and install a SQLite database in your local share. And basically, when you are running scans or performing these or running these modules, the data can be stored and accessed in the SQLite database. So I'm just going to name this one test 1, and then we'll go ahead and it brings us to the main screen. So as you can see, I should give Rhino Security Labs credit as one of their tools. So as we can see, open source tool, assists in pen testing, AWS environment. It's pretty extensive. To full disclosure, this tool is pretty new to me, and I'm also not a pen tester. So understanding the extent of its capabilities is something that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. But I am sure that there are folks here who will find this to be a very entertaining tool, because even though I don't know what I'm doing exactly, within a larger context, I found this to be a lot of fun. So first thing we want to do is basically, as we mentioned earlier, we assume that we have these credentials that somebody leaked into a GitHub. And so what we want to do is basically the first thing is we will set keys and basically just set the AWS keys to this session. So there's also the ability to import. If you've got a local AWS credentials file, you can set up multiple sessions and swap keys. You can export keys to another, back to that credentials file, obviously swap sessions, and then, yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it. So set keys. So first thing we want to do is test alias. So super awesome, super secret keys. And key ID, we'll go back to the dummies that I have from here. They do actually have to be active keys, but this is a dummy account. So, and then we've got
You know
access
what I want to
key.
do? I want to look at your logs, like your AWS account, to see if anybody's in the room has tried to already do anything nefarious on your account. But anyway, I digress.
We can do that after the session, maybe. Okay, and then I'm just going to skip over this session token that is optional. And so, yeah, from here, we can go on ahead and take a look at the different modules that are even available. So they have them categorized. Let's see, so we can see, it starts with, there's all kinds of modules available, ranging from recon, enumeration, escalation, exfiltration. It doesn't only pertain to S3 buckets, that's a wide variety of AWS resources. We can get into some backdoor assume roles, backdoor user keys, passwords. There's some really interesting things you can do here. So let's see.
But for the purposes of our demo, since we already have our keys, right, we're going to focus on just enumerating some permissions, right? And then looking at, what was it? Oh, exfiltrating data, because of course,
yeah,
what's the point of doing any of this if not to get some goods, right? So
all right. Okay, so first we will enumerate IAM permissions. So this basically tries to get a confirmed list of permissions for the current user. Let's see. So this is done by checking the attached and inline policies for the user and groups that they are in. So you have to preface this with the run or execute command. So we'll just go with run here. And so it begins confirming permissions. And as we can see, this is an administrator account. So very exciting, I know, but as you can see, we've got some action happening. So any questions so far?
somebody said that it sounded somewhat dirty. Okay, maybe, I guess.
I don't know if it was me or you, but
yeah, there's nothing really dirty, I think, about the MITRE ATT&CK framework and how it's all mapped out to all these commands, in my opinion. I guess I want to look at your logs. I don't know. I don't know about all that, but you have some very interesting sense of fun, good sir, Adam. Anyway,
I love it. I love it.
yeah. So I guess we can move on to getting what we came here for. Let's get our goods.
Give me the bucket goods. Okay, so we're gonna do S3 download bucket. We believe that's it. There we go. Okay, so good stuff. These are pretty quick scans, which is efficient. So we can see that we are enumerating buckets. We found the list of buckets that we saw earlier through the AWS S3 list command. And so it begins enumerating and then basically allows you to decide whether or not you want to download the files. Like I said, unfortunately, I don't have any juicy content in these buckets, so I'm going to just go ahead and there's nothing to download anyway. We can see that there's nothing in here, but it does cycle through each bucket. Part two, I'll get some good stuff in here. So yeah, it just continues through each bucket, prompts whether or not you want to download. And if you do decide to download, it will save into this particular session that it created at the very beginning. And yeah, we can just carry on. It gives you a nice little summary at the bottom. Buckets, permissions, and I didn't download anything. So those were the two main modules that we were going to demo.
So I guess you'll give me back control of the screen so we can talk about some best practices moving forward.
That concludes the demo portion. All right, cool. We made
All
it through,
right.
guys. Good work. Good work, everyone.
Woohoo. Okay. So let me know if all looks good. I'm present.
Yeah,
I don't know what. I'm
you've got the
sorry. Like
power.
this, I feel like this isn't presenting correctly. It's okay. I think you all can see it.
It's
All right.
good.
Timer. Huh?
It's looking good. It's looking good. It's you have the. I wonder if you full screen the browser, would it work better?
True. Oh, but then I lose visibility on another side. So no, you all will have to deal. Sorry, just for now, because I didn't run like through sharing my screen properly.
You can just zoom in.
Anyway, yeah, zoom in.
It's legible. We can see it.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, let's run through some more code because everybody's eyes are not already like rolling in the back of their heads from seeing black on white text, but
Who
we're
needs
gonna do
that
it
gloss?
anyway. So these are some of the examples that I was talking about that you can find straight, and I ripped off straight off of Terraform's site on enabling versioning, which like I said in the scenario that I talked about earlier would have an internal actor or even an external actor that figured out a way to upload to your bucket because you had been a little bit of a promiscuous principle and allowed them to upload to your bucket from anywhere. They like someone decided to put up something that they ought not have. Um, so this will protect you against that, at least in the sense that you can take a copy from the previous version of your site and re-upload that or restore that. So then on the right hand here, hi, Your Highness, you've arrived. Um, we enable logging obviously because we want visibility into our resources, and this is a fairly. I think that the syntax is fairly simple to follow, but right, we name our resource and our bucket, and then from there, I know you can't really see the I don't know if you can see the cursor, but right, we can configure our access control, and let me see. Yeah, pretty much that's it. Nothing too crazy. The prefix is basically where the namespace where your log will reside. All right, so more ACLs. Um, so this is basically where you could be a little bit more granular and intentional about your permissions, right? So if it were me and I could do over that particular bucket policy, I'd probably only allow you to read it. That's it. And maybe list the buckets in the account. Maybe. Uh, but yeah, I wouldn't give anyone but myself full control. Uh, so here we go, and you can do that as it says here by groups and such. Right hand side, server side encryption. Again, pretty I think easy to read syntax. We want to use server side keys because you just I'm sorry, nobody really knows how to, no human anyway, I feel like knows how to manage keys themselves, right? Let's leave that to somebody else. I know that that makes some people's like spines curl on the inside, but I don't feel like I have enough maths to figure out and manage my own encryption scheme and such. So I will gladly give that on to the cloud gods to figure out for me. So let's see. Yeah, so you have descriptions. Oh, right, you can delete these keys, right, and give them a time frame for that. And that's nice because you don't have to be thinking about that in case you wanted to give it like a finite or give finite access to that bucket. And then so we go on, right? Many of the tools we showed, we call them pen testing tools, but yes, they're cloud auditing tools. And again, shout out to Kennard because This is one of the tools that he wrote, cloud-splaining, which is basically something that goes through your cloud resources and points out over-permissioning, among other things. And it's really pretty, as you can see, and well organized. And if you like click through different hyperlinks, you can get straight to all of these different areas. So yeah, we saw Chekhov. Kix is basically another SAS tool. So a tool that looks at these templates without executing them, so pre-execution or pre-runtime, and figures out if there's anything vulnerable about them. And they are pretty prolific, or at least they have good coverage because they work across multiple templating vendors, including Ansible, because oh my god, it's so hard to find resources for Ansible. And with that, one fun thing, if in case you really didn't like our super lengthy demo, but still want to do a little bit of black on white screen fun that's limited to one-liners, right? If you don't want to code out everything yourself, we do have Endgame, which is something that allows you to exploit AWS tools with fairly simple syntax. I encourage you to look into that one, although I don't know if we should have put that in the cloud auditing tools section. Anyway, so as we said earlier, we are not creating an automated red teaming tool just yet, but we know people who have, and so shout out again to the Splunk attack range. Do check that out. It includes Caldera, which basically uses ML to simulate adversaries. So by red team, just kidding. don't don't actually want to say that. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's a fairly sophisticated tool, maintained modular, that allows you to look at what it would be like if you could launch some pretty sophisticated attacks, and encourage you to look through all those modules because they're very fun. All right, so with that, do we have any questions? If not, we've taken up almost an hour of your time. Your Highness, if you're trying to speak, we can't hear you.
No, I was commenting on your presentation. Very nice presentation.
Oh, thanks, Kanashka, for coming down, homegirl. Hey. Can't wait to see you at re:Invent. Okay. Okay. So if we have no questions, yeah, we can stick around and just chat. Oh, how can we reach you guys later if you have any questions? Yeah, sure. Jordan, you want to?
Sure, we can either drop Discord handles in the chat really quick.
Yeah, we can put our %27 Hack Miami handles, which I should know by memory my Discord handle, but I don't. I know it's Aimee Elaine because y'all can know my name. It's fine. I'll drop that in the chat, and I think we're pretty responsive. Yeah.
Find me.
I guess like one thing to note, final tips, is that this is going to be frustrating at first, possibly. We've tried to collect resources that make it fairly easy for someone to just get started. But there are a lot of parameters you can mess up. Terraform's sensitive to indentation, for example. But it isn't something that you need to be intimidated by. I know that I'm more upset by the prospect of having to redo configurations manually than I am by having to bang my head up against the wall for maybe 2 minutes, maybe 30 to get through some of these.
No matter what,
challenges.
it's going to be tedious. So what kind of tedious do you want to get into?
Exactly, right?
So, and this is an area that, like, obviously we're both very interested in, and we'll continue exploring. So, happy to collab with anyone who's, you know, also taking an interest in sort of leveraging these infrastructure as code tools and even the, you know, analysis tools. It does seem like it's kind of part of this move from, you know, traditional style of development into modern. Not that I'm the person who calls it or has designated it modern, but
one final thing, right? So Splunk attack range, that plug was incomplete because you can definitely do PRs, pull requests on it, and improve it. It's an open source project for the community and by the community. So definitely do, if you can, contribute. All right. I guess that concludes our presentation. Hope you all have a good one.
yeah, thanks all. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you, Aimee. Thank you, Jordan, for the wonderful presentation. You know, again, join the Discord, keep the conversation going. Thanks for sharing your Discord handles. We'll have anyone has any additional